It was supposed to be a dead zone, silent, empty, forgotten by the stars. But from the shadows of the forbidden sector, a signal broke through, a scream buried in static, encrypted in desperation. Commander Elena Vasquez should have ignored it. Every protocol said so. But humans don't always follow orders, especially not when the helpless are being hunted. The galaxy had already turned its back on the Zephyrians, labeling them weak, expendable, prey. Earth heard their cry, and what Earth sent in return were not peacekeepers. They sent the apex predators of a Deathworld. They sent humanity. Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the communications center of the stealth frigate Shadow of Terra, staring at a signal that shouldn't exist. The ship drifted silently through the edge of what Galactic charts called the Forbidden Sector, a region of space that the Galactic Alliance had declared off-limits to all member species. Elena had been commanding deep reconnaissance missions for Earth's Special Operations Fleet for 8 years, but she had never encountered anything quite like this. The signal was encrypted with patterns that hurt to look at directly. It seemed to shift and writhe on her display screen, almost as if it were alive and in pain. Elena was a woman of medium height with steel-gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and dark brown eyes that had seen too much of the galaxy's cruelty. She came from a long line of soldiers, but her specialty was different from her ancestors. Where they had fought human enemies, Elena fought monsters that most people couldn't imagine. Lieutenant Chen, run another analysis on that transmission, Elena ordered. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had made life and death decisions in the darkest corners of space. Technical specialist David Chen was hunched over his workstation, his young face illuminated by the strange patterns dancing across multiple screens. He had joined the Special Operations Fleet straight from Earth's most advanced cryptography program, and his ability to break alien codes had saved countless lives. Commander, this is unlike anything in our databases. The encryption is biological in nature, almost like it's encoded in pain itself. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. In her experience, when alien technology was designed around suffering, it usually meant something terrible was happening. The Shadow of Terra was one of Earth's newest stealth vessels, designed specifically for reconnaissance in hostile territory. Its crew of 40 specialists had volunteered for missions that officially didn't exist, operating in regions where the Galactic Alliance refused to go. "Can you break it?" Elena asked. Ken's fingers moved rapidly across his interface. "Working on it, Commander." The biological components are responding to. Wait, his face went pale. "Commander, you need to hear this." The speakers crackled to life, filled with static and something that sounded like screaming. Then a voice emerged, speaking in heavily accented Galactic standard. This is anyone listening. "My name is Karath of the Zephyrian Collective. We were a peaceful people. They came to our worlds 3 cycles ago. They said we were inferior. We had no right to exist in their galaxy." Elena leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of Chen's workstation. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as one of the most pacifist species ever encountered. They had never developed weapons beyond simple tools, never fought wars, never even raised their voices in anger. Their entire culture was built around harmony and artistic expression. The transmission continued, the voice breaking with emotion. "They do not simply kill us. They hunt us. They have turned our worlds into game preserves. They release us into wilderness areas and hunt us with weapons and flying machines. They keep score. They celebrate when they kill our children." Elena's jaw tightened. She had encountered many horrors in her career, but the systematic hunting of an entire peaceful species for sport was beyond even her worst nightmares. "Chen, where is this signal coming from?" "Deep in the Forbidden Sector, Commander. The Kepler 186 system. It has been broadcasting for weeks." The voice on the transmission grew weaker. "We sent messages to the Galactic Alliance. We begged for help. They told us that intervention would be too costly, that the Dominion Empire has the legal right to claim undefended territory. They said we should have learned to defend ourselves." Elena felt anger building in her chest. The Galactic Alliance's policy of non-interference had allowed countless atrocities to occur across the galaxy. Member species were protected, but those who couldn't defend themselves were often abandoned to whatever fate awaited them. "They are coming for the last of us now," the Zephyrian continued. "We hide in the deep caves of our homeworld, but their scanners find us anyway. In a few days, there will be no more Zephyrians in the universe. If anyone receives this message, please know that we tried to live in peace. We never harmed anyone. We just wanted to exist." The transmission dissolved into static, leaving the communication center in heavy silence. Alina stared at the display for several long moments, thinking about the gentle beings who were being hunted to extinction, while the galaxy looked the other way. "Commander," said Major Sarah Kim, Alina's second-in-command, entering the communications center. Sarah was a tall woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of combat operations. "I heard the transmission. The Galactic Alliance issued a direct order 6 months ago. No Alliance vessels are to enter the Forbidden Sector under any circumstances." Alina turned to face her executive officer. "And what do you think of that order, Major?" Sarah's expression hardened. "I think the Alliance has forgotten what it means to protect the innocent. The Dominion Empire has been expanding their territory by claiming that peaceful species are evolutionary failures that need to be eliminated for the good of the galaxy." Alina nodded slowly. The Dominion Empire was one of the galaxy's most aggressive expansionist powers. They were a species of large, heavily armored humanoids who believed that might made right. Their philosophy was simple. Strong species deserved to rule. Weak species deserved to die. They had been carefully avoiding conflict with Alliance member species, instead focusing on unprotected civilizations that couldn't fight back. "Chen, how long would it take to reach the Kepler 186 system?" Alina asked. "At maximum stealth velocity, about 4 days, Commander." Alina looked around the communications center. Her crew was watching her carefully, waiting for her decision. They all knew what she was thinking. The Special Operations Fleet had been created for missions exactly like this, situations where the regular Alliance military couldn't or wouldn't act. Major Kim sent a message to Fleet Command. "Tell them we're investigating unusual readings in the Outer Rim sectors. Tell them our communication systems are experiencing interference and we may be out of contact for several days." Sarah smiled grimly. "How unfortunate that our systems would malfunction just when we received those readings." Alina activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is Commander Vasquez. We have just received a distress call from a peaceful species that is being hunted to extinction. The Galactic Alliance has officially classified this as outside their area of concern. We're going to show them the difference between Alliance policy and human values." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I want to be clear about what we're facing. The Dominion Empire has a fleet of over 200 warships. They are larger, better armed, and more numerous than we are. What they don't have is experience fighting an enemy that refuses to play by their rules." In the ship's tactical center, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez was already pulling up star charts and intelligence reports on Dominion forces. Marcus was Alina's tactical specialist, a man whose mind worked like a military computer when it came to strategy and warfare. He had served in the border wars against human pirate fleets before joining the Special Operations Fleet. "Commander," Marcus called over the comm, "I'm seeing some interesting patterns in Dominion ship movements. They're not expecting any resistance. Their formations are optimized for hunting ground targets, not for ship-to-ship combat." Alina made her way to the tactical center, studying the holographic displays that showed Dominion fleet positions throughout the Forbidden Sector. "What else do we know about their hunting practices?" Based on intercepted communications, they divide their fleets into hunting packs of 3 to 5 ships each. They release captive populations on planetary surfaces, and then hunt them with atmospheric fighters and ground troops. It's entertainment for them, Commander. They broadcast the hunts to their homeworlds as sporting events." Alina felt her hands clench into fists. The idea of turning genocide into entertainment was beyond her comprehension. But it also revealed something important about their enemy. They had grown complacent. They had been hunting defenseless prey for so long that they had forgotten what it meant to face a real predator. Navigation set course for Kepler 186. Maximum stealth. Alina settled into her command chair and activated the ship's full combat protocols. "We're about to remind the galaxy why humans are called Deathworlders." The Shadow of Terra changed course, its advanced stealth systems masking its presence as it headed deeper into the Forbidden Sector. Behind them, the civilized galaxy continued its normal business, unaware that one of Earth's most dangerous predators was about to enter hunting grounds where the prey was about to become the hunter. As they traveled through the dark space between stars, Alina reviewed everything they knew about the Dominion Empire. They were a species that had evolved as pack hunters on a world with low gravity and minimal natural threats. Their society was built around the concept of the strong dominating the weak, and they had extended this philosophy to their interactions with other species. What they didn't understand was that they were about to encounter a species that had evolved as persistence hunters on one of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. Humans had spent millions of years learning to track and kill prey that was larger, faster, and stronger than they were. They had learned to use intelligence, patience, and ruthless determination to overcome seemingly impossible odds. "Commander," Shen called from his station, "I'm picking up another transmission from these Ephirian survivors. It's much weaker than before." Alina listened as the desperate voice came through the speakers again. "This is Kurath. We are down to fewer than 1,000 survivors. They have found most of our hiding places. They are using new hunting methods now, releasing predatory animals to flush us out. Please, if anyone is listening, do not let them forget us. Do not let them forget that we existed." Alina stood up from her command chair, her voice carrying throughout the ship. "Mr. Chen, open a channel to those coordinates." "Channel open, Commander." Alina spoke directly into the communication system, her voice calm and steady. "Kurath of the Zephyrian Collective, this is Commander Alina Vasquez of the Earth Special Operations Fleet. We have received your message. We are coming. Hold on." The response came back immediately, filled with disbelief and hope. "Earth? But your people are part of the Alliance. The Alliance said they could not help." "The Alliance doesn't speak for humanity," Alina replied coldly. "We do. And we're going to teach the Dominion Empire what happens when they threaten innocent people in our galaxy." As the Shadow of Terra continued its journey toward the Kepler 186 system, Alina began planning what would become known as the Forbidden Sector Campaign. The Dominion Empire thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They were about to learn what real predators looked like when they decided to hunt. The hunt begins. The Shadow of Terra dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 186 system, and Commander Alina Vasquez immediately understood why the Galactic Alliance had classified this region as forbidden. Through the ship's sensors, she could see the systematic destruction of an entire civilization playing out in real time. Dominion hunting ships hung in orbit around the third planet like metallic vultures. Their dark hulls were decorated with trophies, pieces of destroyed Zephyrian artwork and architecture welded to their armor plating as displays of conquest. Alina watched her tactical displays as atmospheric fighters dove toward the planet's surface, their weapons firing at targets that could only be fleeing civilians. "Sensor analysis complete, Commander," reported Science Officer Dr. Lisa Park from her station. Dr. Park was a woman in her early 30s with short blonde hair and the kind of focused intensity that came from years of studying alien biology and technology. "The Dominion has established what they call game preserves across the entire planet. They've divided the surface into hunting zones, each with different terrain and challenges." Alina studied the horrifying data streaming across her displays. The Dominion had turned an entire world into a hunting ground, complete with observation posts and scoring systems. "How many hunting packs are we looking at?" 12 active hunting groups, Commander. Each pack consists of 1 capital ship and 4 to 6 support vessels. Total enemy strength is approximately 75 ships. Major Sarah Kim whistled low from her position at the tactical station. 75 ships against 1. Those aren't exactly favorable odds. Alina smiled grimly. "Favorable odds are for people who play fair. We're not here to play fair." She activated the ship's internal communication system. "All department heads to the briefing room. It's time to plan a hunt." Within minutes, Alina's senior staff had assembled in the ship's compact briefing room. The walls were lined with displays showing real-time intelligence on Dominion positions and movements. Alina stood at the head of the table, studying the faces of the people who would help her plan the impossible. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alina began, "we are about to engage in asymmetric warfare against an enemy that outnumbers us 75 to 1. The good news is that they have no idea we exist. The bad news is that once we start, they're going to adapt quickly." Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez leaned forward, his dark eyes focused on the tactical displays. "Commander, I've been analyzing their hunting patterns. These aren't military formations, they're entertainment groups. They prioritize spectacular kills over tactical efficiency." Dr. Park activated a holographic display showing the planet's surface. "The Dominion has established permanent hunting lodges on the surface where they rest between hunts. These facilities are heavily defended, but poorly positioned from a military standpoint. They chose locations for scenic views, not strategic advantage." Alina nodded. "What about the survivors?" "Approximately 800 Zephyrians are still alive, scattered in small groups across the planet's surface. They've learned to hide in deep cave systems and underground water channels. The Dominion is using increasingly sophisticated hunting methods to flush them out. Weapons Specialist Chief Petty Officer Tom Bradley spoke up from his position at the far end of the table. Bradley was a large man with graying hair and hands that showed the scars of years working with dangerous technology. "Commander, I've been reviewing the Dominion ship designs. They're built for intimidation and overwhelming firepower, not for stealth or defensive operations." Alina studied the ship schematics on Bradley's display. The Dominion vessels were indeed impressive, massive, heavily armed, and covered in decorative armor that proclaimed their owners' status as hunters. But they were also designed by a species that had never faced serious resistance. "Weaknesses?" Helena asked. "Their power distribution systems are centralized and poorly shielded," Bradley replied. "They never expected anyone to target their infrastructure. Also, their communication arrays are completely exposed. They use them to broadcast their hunts, so they prioritize transmission power over protection." Alina felt the first stirrings of a plan beginning to form. "Chen, what do we know about their hunting schedules?" Technical Specialist David Chen consulted his tablet. "They operate on a predictable pattern, Commander. Each hunting pack takes turns conducting events, while the others rest or resupply. Tonight, 3 packs are scheduled to hunt, while the rest are docked at their orbital facilities." Alina looked around the table at her team. These were the best specialists Earth's military had produced, and they were about to attempt something that had never been tried before, taking on an entire enemy fleet with a single stealth ship. "Here's what we're going to do," Alina said. "We're going to turn their own hunting tactics against them. They think they're the predators in this system. We're going to show them what it feels like to be prey." The first phase of Alina's plan was reconnaissance. The Shadow of Terra used its advanced stealth systems to move through the Dominion fleet undetected, gathering detailed intelligence on their positions, capabilities, and routines. What they discovered was both encouraging and horrifying. The Dominion had indeed grown complacent. Their ships maintained minimal security protocols, and their crews operated with the casual confidence of predators who had never faced a real threat. But the evidence of their crimes was overwhelming. Every ship carried trophies from murdered civilizations, and their communications were filled with casual discussions of genocide as entertainment. "Commander," Dr. Park said quietly as they observed a hunting pack preparing for an evening expedition, "I'm reading massive life sign concentrations in the lower holds of their ships. They're not just hunting the Zephyrians, they're keeping other species as prisoners for future hunts." Alina felt her anger crystallize into cold purpose. The Dominion wasn't just committing genocide against the Zephyrians. They were operating a galaxy-wide hunting industry, capturing peaceful species and using them as living targets for their entertainment. "How many prisoners total?" Alina asked. "Based on the biosignatures, approximately 15,000 beings from at least 12 different species." Alina made her decision. Change of plans. "We're not just saving the Zephyrians, we're shutting down their entire operation." The attack began at 300 ship time, when most of the Dominion crews were asleep. Alina had chosen the most isolated hunting pack for their first target. 3 ships positioned on the far side of the planet, conducting what their communications described as a night stalking event. The Shadow of Terra approached the trailing ship in the hunting formation, a medium cruiser called Bloodfang. Alina had selected this vessel because its communication array was the most exposed and its crew seemed the most careless about security protocols. "Bradley, are the charges ready?" Alina asked over the comm. "Ready, Commander. Magnetic mines with delayed detonation. They'll think it's a system malfunction until it's too late." Chief Bradley led a team of specialists in environmental suits out of the Shadow of Terra's airlocks. They moved through space with the silence of experienced predators, attaching small explosive devices to critical systems along the Bloodfang's hull. The charges were designed to disable rather than destroy. Alina wanted the ship intact for the intelligence it contained. While Bradley's team worked, Shen hacked into the Dominion ship's communication systems. What he found there made Alina's blood run cold. The ship's databanks contained detailed records of hundreds of hunts across dozens of worlds. Videos of families being separated for more challenging pursuits. Betting pools on how long different species would survive. Scientific studies on pain tolerance across different alien physiologies. "Commander," Chen said quietly over the comm, "these people aren't just killers, they're monsters." Alina watched the tactical display as Bradley's team completed their work and returned to the ship. Then it's time they learned what real monsters look like. "Detonate the charges." The Bloodfang went dark as its power systems failed in cascade. Emergency lighting flickered on as the crew struggled to understand what was happening. In the confusion, Alina ordered the Shadow of Terra to move to the next target. The second ship, a heavy destroyer called the Pressseeker, never saw them coming. Alina's team had learned from the first attack, and this time they targeted both power and life support systems. The Dominion crew found themselves in darkness, breathing increasingly stale air while their ship drifted helplessly. By the time the Dominion realized they were under attack, Alina had disabled 4 ships and was moving on the 5th. The hunters were discovering what it felt like to be hunted by something they couldn't see or predict. All ships, emergency status, came the panicked voice of a Dominion commander over their communication channels. We are under attack by unknown forces. Repeat, we are under attack. Alina listened to the growing panic in the enemy communications with cold satisfaction. For the first time in their existence, the Dominion was experiencing fear. They were learning what their victims had felt during countless hunts across the galaxy. But Alina knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion would adapt quickly once they understood they were facing a real threat. The real test would come when they stopped being confident hunters and started being desperate survivors. Major Kim, Alina said as they approached their next target, signal these Ephirian survivors. Tell them the hunting season is over. The hunters have become the hunted. Monsters meet monsters. The Dominion response came faster than Alina had expected. Within 6 hours of the first attacks, every hunting pack in the system had been recalled to defensive positions around their command vessel, a massive dreadnought called the Apex Predator. The ship lived up to its name, nearly 2 kilometers long and bristling with enough weapons to reduce a planet to ash. Commander Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Shadow of Terra, studying the new formation on her tactical displays. The casual hunting groups had been replaced by a tight military formation designed to protect against exactly the kind of attacks she had been conducting. Their learning, Major Sarah Kim observed from her position at the tactical station. Admiral Kresh is no fool. Alina had been studying intelligence reports on Admiral Kresh for the past several hours. He was the Dominion's most experienced military commander, responsible for the conquest of over 30 peaceful civilizations. Unlike the casual hunters she had been facing, Kresh was a professional soldier who understood warfare beyond simple predation. Commander, Technical Specialist David Chen called from his station, I'm intercepting communications from the Dominion fleet. Admiral Kresh has declared what he calls a great hunt. He's putting a bounty on our ship equivalent to 1,000 civilian kills. Alina felt a cold smile cross her face. He thinks we're just another prey species that got lucky with a few sneak attacks. Let's show him what human ingenuity really looks like. The next phase of Alina's plan required something that no military academy would have taught. She was going to make the enemy angry enough to make mistakes. Humans have learned long ago that emotional opponents were easier to defeat than logical ones. Dr. Park, what's the status on those prisoners we detected? Still alive, Commander. The Dominion ships are equipped with holding facilities designed to keep captured beings alive for extended periods. They want their prey healthy for the hunts. Alina activated the ship's communication system. Mr. Chen, I want you to hack into the Dominion fleet communication network. Not just for intelligence this time, I want to broadcast a message to every ship in their fleet. Chen's fingers moved rapidly across his interface. Channel open, Commander. You're transmitting to the entire Dominion fleet. Alina spoke clearly and calmly into the communication system. Admiral Kresh, this is Commander Alina Vasquez of the Earth Special Operations Fleet. We have been observing your hunting practices with great interest. She paused, knowing that her words were being heard by every Dominion ship in the system. You see, we come from a world where hunting is also a way of life. The difference is that we learn to hunt things that could fight back. You've been hunting peaceful species for so long that you've forgotten what real predators look like. Alina could see increased activity on the Dominion ships as her words spread through their fleet. We know about your prisoner ships. We know about your hunting preserves across the galaxy. We know about the 15,000 innocent beings you're keeping as future prey, and where to collect them. The response came immediately. Admiral Kresh's voice boomed across the communication channels, filled with arrogant confidence. Unknown vessel, you are clearly suffering from delusions brought on by a few lucky strikes against unprepared hunting parties. You face the might of the Dominion Empire. Surrender now, and I will allow you to participate in the Great Hunt as prey rather than simply destroying you. Alina's expression hardened. Admiral, you've spent so long hunting defenseless beings that you've forgotten what war actually looks like. Allow me to remind you. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. Alina had spent years learning to think like her enemies, but Admiral Kresh had made the fatal mistake of underestimating a species he had never encountered before. The attack began with something the Dominion had never seen: psychological warfare. Chen had gained access to their communication networks, and he began broadcasting footage from the ship's databanks directly to every screen in the Dominion fleet. The images showed the systematic extermination of peaceful civilizations, the casual brutality of the hunts, the celebrations that followed each genocide. But Chen had edited the footage carefully. He showed the Dominion crews exactly what they had become: not warriors or conquerors, but simple murderers who preyed on the helpless. For species whose entire identity was built around being apex predators, seeing themselves portrayed as cowardly bullies was psychologically devastating. The effect was immediate. Alina could hear arguments breaking out across the Dominion communication channels as crew members began questioning their orders. Some ships reported discipline problems as their crews grappled with seeing their actions through the eyes of another predator species. While the Dominion fleet dealt with internal chaos, Alina struck at their most vulnerable point: their arrogance. The Shadow of Terra approached the apex predator using a route that should have been impossible for any ship to navigate. Alina was counting on the fact that the Dominion had grown so confident in their superiority that they wouldn't believe an enemy could be that audacious. "Weapon systems armed," reported Chief Bradley. "All charges positioned and ready for detonation." Alina had spent the past several hours positioning explosive devices throughout the outer hull of the enemy dreadnought. Not enough to destroy the massive ship, but enough to cripple its primary systems and send a very clear message. "Commander," Dr. Park called from her station, "I'm reading massive life sign concentrations throughout the enemy ship. Admiral Kresh has prisoners on his command vessel." Alina's plan shifted instantly. She couldn't risk killing thousands of innocent beings just to eliminate one enemy commander. But she could do something else, something that would terrify the Dominion more than any weapon. "Chen, can you access their internal communication systems?" "Yes, Commander. Their security is designed to keep people out of the ship, not to prevent someone who's already inside the network." Alina smiled coldly. "Then let's give Admiral Kresh a demonstration of what happens when humans decide to hunt." The next several hours became a nightmare for the Dominion fleet. Alina had turned their own ships into hunting grounds, but this time they were the prey. Using the ship's systems against them, she began systematically disabling their vessels while avoiding any action that might harm the prisoners. Environmental systems failed, plunging ships into darkness and stale air. Navigation systems malfunctioned, sending ships into collision courses with asteroids. Weapon systems turned on each other as targeting computers were reprogrammed to identify other Dominion vessels as threats. Most terrifying of all, Alina began broadcasting the locations of hiding Dominion crew members throughout their own ships. She turned their vessels into deadly games of hide-and-seek, where the crew never knew if the next corridor would contain safety or a system failure that could kill them. "Admiral Kresh," Alina's voice echoed through every speaker on every Dominion ship. "You wanted to show your people what a great hunt looked like. Consider this your education in what it means to be hunted by a species that evolved to kill things larger and more dangerous than themselves." The psychological effect was devastating. The Dominion crews had spent their entire lives believing they were the ultimate predators in the galaxy. Discovering that they were actually prey when faced with a real hunting species shattered their worldview completely. Ships began surrendering. Not just individual vessels, but entire hunting packs. Alina watched in satisfaction as Dominion commanders announced their surrender over open communication channels, begging for mercy from the invisible predator that was systematically dismantling their fleet. "Commander," Major Kim reported from Tactical, "we're receiving surrender signals from 60% of the enemy fleet. The remainder have fled the system." Alina nodded slowly. "And Admiral Kresh?" "His command ship is still functional, but dead in space. He's requesting personal communication." Alina had Chen open a direct channel to the apex predator. Admiral Kresh's face appeared on her main screen, and she could see that the arrogant confidence had been replaced by something she had never seen in a Dominion leader before: fear. "You have demonstrated your superiority," Kresh said, his voice carefully controlled. "What are your terms for our surrender?" Alina studied the alien commander. He was large even by Dominion standards, his body covered in the ceremonial scars that marked a successful hunter. But his eyes showed the hollow shock of a predator who had suddenly discovered he was prey. "My terms are simple, Admiral. You will release every prisoner in your fleet immediately. You will provide coordinates for every hunting preserve and prison facility in Dominion space, and you will broadcast a message to your Empire announcing that the era of hunting peaceful species is over." Kresh's face twisted with what might have been confusion or rage. "You can't be serious. We are the Dominion Empire. We have conquered hundreds of worlds." "You have murdered hundreds of civilizations," Alina corrected coldly. "There's a difference. Warriors conquer. Cowards hunt the defenseless. Which are you, Admiral?" The silence stretched for several long moments. Finally, Kresh spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. What are you?" Alina leaned forward, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's long evolution as persistence hunters. "We are what your worst nightmares would look like if they learned to use starships and tactics. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We are what happens when predators decide to hunt other predators instead of prey." The aftermath of what became known as the Forbidden Sector liberation was swift and decisive. The 15,000 prisoners were freed and returned to their homeworlds. The Dominion hunting preserves were shut down and their locations broadcast to the Galactic Alliance for monitoring. Most importantly, word spread throughout the galaxy that there was now a species willing to hunt the hunters. Alina stood on the bridge of the Shadow of Terra as they prepared to leave the Kepler 186 system. Through the viewports, she could see Zephyrian ships beginning the long process of rebuilding their civilization. The gentle beings who had been hunted to near extinction were finally safe. "Commander," Chen called from his station, "we're receiving a message from Earth Command. They want a full report on our activities in the Forbidden Sector." Alina smiled slightly. "Tell them we encountered some technical difficulties with our communication systems. We'll file a complete report when we return." "And when will that be, Commander?" Major Kim asked. Alina looked at the tactical display showing dozens of other star systems where peaceful species were being threatened by various predator civilizations. "When our work is done, Major. The galaxy has learned that humans will answer when the innocent call for help. Now we need to make sure the message is received clearly." The Shadow of Terra turned away from the liberated system and headed toward the next crisis, carrying with it the promise that no call for help would go unanswered. The galaxy's monsters had learned what it meant to face Earth's monsters, and the balance of power in the universe had shifted forever. Behind them, Admiral Kresh sat in his prison cell aboard his own ship, still trying to understand how his perfect predator society had been dismantled by a single vessel, crewed by beings he had never heard of. He would spend the rest of his life wondering what kind of world could produce such terrifying hunters. The answer was simple: a world that had taught its children that the strong existed to protect the weak, and that sometimes the only way to stop a monster was to become something even more frightening. The end.